Hello, welcome to Frank's School, 44th day of the 7th year, first video. Going on with the making of Resurrection, and I want to talk a little bit more about the soundtrack, and then some other stuff here. Then I'm going to get back to the story. I think I might as well, I'm into it this deep anyway, that quote from Macbeth comes to mind. I might as well just go on through it. I'll probably go back to the story. But anyway, I have a few more comments I want to make before I do that. First of all, Kronos, he's the god of time, might be spelled with a K here. I would put him among he's there in a way, in this case, as kind of the enemy, because time has done the destruction to the village that needs to be resurrected. So I wanted to mention Kronos. Haven't had a cat fight for a while, but might have one here. Maybe I'll jump into this. When I talked about extras, I actually think I'm pretty confident I could come up with extras. Josh is a neighbor. He's got all kinds of animals, and he's skilled. He would help out, I'm pretty sure. I've got another neighbor a little further away, Nelson, and his family. They are supreme gardeners of a kind that is going to be closer to sustainable than anything you might imagine. And he's got a large family. And a lot of the filming, I could cheat to this extent, as I am not able by myself and to get my own gardens looking so good, I could cheat in the filming and go to his gardens. Now he doesn't lay them out on contour lines, but rather straight lines, but that could kind of be hidden. So anyway, I'm sure he would help out. Probably like to. Hospitality Springs is the name of his site, and he tries to actually promote it. So hospitality Springs farm or something like that. You could Google that if you wanted to, and you could see some images of him and his family. He wouldn't mind that at all. He'd appreciate that. And the general community. I mean, I've got a lot of friends here in church and in the historical group that we have, and I think they would catch on to this, and they would help out. So I could get the extras. And there's I wanted to add too to the couples there, that little family, Paul and Robin and Robinson and stuff. A friend of mine named Ernie and his wife Megan, and they have a little boy. They would do it too. I've got various possibilities for that. All right, now going on here, Peter and the Wolf. When I described what I wanted to do to an old friend of mine who has his PhD in music from Eastman School of Music, I think, one of his first comments is, "Oh, you mean like Peter and the Wolf?" Given that I was talking about every character having his or her theme, and it keeps showing up and stuff. In a way, but not really, because for one thing, Peter and the Wolf requires narration, or at least it was always intended, I think, to have narration. However, if you don't have the narration and you only hear the music, you do recognize those themes and those timbres. You know, that was an interesting connection that he made there. Another thing that I've been told about a couple of times, I'm not sure how to say this, if it's Qatsi or Qatsi trilogy. There's 3 movies that were wordless, almost wordless. But they're non-narrative. I need to probably look more at them, but when you've got a wordless movie, the soundtrack becomes so important. Without words, the soundtrack is there all the time. I mean, you've got potentially 2 hours worth of steady music going on, not being broken up by dialogue or explosions or races or stuff. I should probably look more into that, but it's non-narrative the way it's described. It doesn't actually tell a story. It's didactic. I think it's meant to teach and show the dilemma and maybe even show the results. I don't know as much as I should about this. I started to watch the first one, but it's not narrative, is what I've been told. So it's not the same either. What I'm thinking about doing, the closest still that I can come up with really is a ballet. But if where people don't move to a beat and it's outside, so much of it's outside and it's filmed, I don't really know anything quite like it. I have the word charisma here because there was a time when I had more charisma than I have now. I don't know how much charisma I've got left, if any. But with more charisma, somebody could make this happen more easily, I think, than I can now. So the soundtrack alone, I was thinking about that. If I just had the soundtrack, if I would sit and listen to the soundtrack, as I've described it, I would know just what's going on in every part of it. And you know, people will sometimes buy the soundtrack of a particular movie. I remember The Last of the Mohicans. My wife and daughter both loved that movie so much, and I think they just were happy to just listen to the soundtrack, which is that's quite a tribute to the composer of the soundtrack, and there are some very famous ones. But I was thinking, you know, mine will be nothing like those, but that would still work. You know, I could imagine publishing online the soundtrack by itself, and maybe even before the visual. See what would happen. It wouldn't cost much. I could put it on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, if I had it, and it wouldn't take that much for me to actually put it together. I could do it in installments. Act 1, I think there's 2 L's. Act 1 is virtually ready. I mean, it would just be a matter of cutting things down, getting them into the right key, and getting them performed with the right timbre and stuff. I could put that on my YouTube channel and just float it out there and say, well, here's what Act 1 sounds like. So I've thought about that. I even reached out. I haven't heard back from him yet, but to a local man, friend of mine, who's a composer and has the equipment to do this stuff, and you know, it's possible. So without words is important. Okay, now finally, I wanted to say that filmmakers, you know, when you're going to make a film, you pretty often will approach a filmmaker or try to convince a filmmaker. Well, you know, I don't suppose I have enough yet. Maybe when I get to the end of the story, you know, it might be worth it to approach a filmmaker. I don't know. I mean, I'm not about, I started to, but I'm not going to write all this stuff out. No, if somebody were really interested in making this film, well, listen to the videos. You know, I'm telling it. But I do know filmmakers, and most of these are filmmakers who know what I'm trying to do. And but most of them also have not, I'd almost say none of them have ever made a dramatic narrative Hollywood style, they might call it film. I don't even know what to call it. But they've made many documentaries, this list of people. There's John. He's made about 40 documentaries. And then there's John, who's never actually made a film, but he's a fabulous photographer and a close friend of mine. He knows what I'm doing. There's Casey, former student of mine. He's in the film industry, but he's never made a movie like this. But he's already given me some suggestions, basically saying, do you realize how hard this is? There's Peter. I haven't talked to him directly about this, but all his life he worked in the film industry. Never as a director, I don't think. He was a high school friend of mine, and grade school, actually. There's Karen. Now, she lives in Germany. She knows what I'm trying to do, and she's not made very many films, but she's working on one right now. And absolutely with me like this in terms of the importance of the teaching that has to be done. A woman named Kirsten has no idea who I am. I tried to contact her. She lives in Spain. But she's made so many wonderful short documentaries, and they're, you know, very well done. Kirsten. Oh, what is her last name? I want to say Borston. You can find her though in Fair Companies. If you, this might be two words. Fair Companies. I think Kirsten. It's I can't think of her last name. Just Borston comes to mind, but I don't think that's right. But anyway, she's got a lot of wonderful documentaries, and like I say, she has no idea who I am. But she also would very much fall in line with my kind of thinking on so much of this stuff. And then there's a film company in Australia called Happen Films, which is, you know, struggling along. They're new, mostly low budget films, but they've made films, but not dramatic. These are almost, in every case, documentaries. Well, I'm going to go on with this story, and I'll probably start to do that tomorrow, or at least the next video. Bye for now.